The year is 1879. The place is the Valley of 1,000 Hills in South Africa. A mighty Zulu king named Cetshwayo has just rallied his 20,000 men to defend their homeland from encroaching British colonial forces. And those men are ready to die for their king. In fact, they would go on to do exactly that, which makes this gathering of Zulu warriors one of the most powerful forces in history. But why? Why were these men willing to die so bravely for their country? To understand, we have to look back in time to see how their kingdom was forged in blood and fire. We do not know exactly when the Zulu Kingdom was founded because their records were destroyed during the British conquest of South Africa. But historians believe it may have been around 1816 when a man named Shaka united the various clans of the Zulu people under his rule. The name Zulu was actually an insult that another tribe used to call Shaka's people. But he proudly embraced the name and made it his own. According to legend, Shaka was a kind of chosen one who brought order and unity to the Zulu people after a period of great chaos and war in South Africa. He did this by waging war against his rivals and absorbing their people into the Zulu Kingdom. His military genius, innovative tactics, and sheer brutality made him nearly unstoppable. Many of the clans he conquered hated him, but they had no choice but to submit to his rule or die. This created a massive kingdom that stretched from the coast of the Indian Ocean all the way up to the Transvaal region. When Shaka died in 1828, his half-brother Dingaan took over the throne and continued his conquests. Dingaan was even more ruthless than Shaka, and he managed to double the size of the kingdom by subduing many of the local tribes. But despite all their military victories, the Zulu people were still very vulnerable. That's because although they were united under one king, they were still very divided along clan lines. Each clan had its own chief who answered directly to the king, and they remained fiercely independent even within the larger Zulu Kingdom. This would prove to be their undoing during the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879. But it also played a big role in the rituals and customs that made the Zulus such formidable fighters. You see, before going into battle, Zulu warriors would perform an incredibly intense and terrifying ritual that gave them spiritual power to fight with the strength of 10 men. It involved every single member of the kingdom. For days, men, women, and children would fast and purify themselves in preparation for the upcoming battle. They would then gather together and dance in front of their tribal huts in what is now known as the bull, that Wu. During the dance, warriors would dress up like bulls and shake their hindparts in a rhythm that resembled a charging bull. They believed that through this dance, they could summon the spirits of their ancestors to come and fight alongside them in battle. Some scholars believe that the bull dance was actually a reenactment of the creation myth of the Zulu people. In this myth, a man named Umblingdwana, who was sent from the spirit world to become the first Zulu king, is tasked with creating people to populate the earth. He procreated with women from other tribes and created the Zulus, who were meant to be a strong and brave people. The bull that Wu was a reminder of their origins and a way to reconnect with their past as they prepared for battle. It was said that anyone who participated in the bull dance could gain immense physical and spiritual strength. However, only male warriors could wield weapons during the ceremony. Spears and shields were placed on the ground in front of the dancers, and only warriors were allowed to touch them. Each warrior had to prove himself worthy of his weapon through bravery and skill. After the dance, warriors would take their weapons and prepare for battle. It was believed that the ancestral spirits had purified them and granted them superhuman powers. They would use these powers to fight with incredible ferocity and determination. This, combined with their innovative tactics and guerrilla warfare strategies, made the Zulu army almost unbeatable in close combat. Their circular formations and use of the short stabbing motion of their spears allowed them to deflect incoming bullets, while raining down a storm of spear thrusts on their enemies. Even the British, who had guns, could not stop the Zulus once they got inside their formation. However, the British thought they had nothing to worry about. Why? Because they vastly outnumbered the Zulus, and they had guns. Unfortunately for them, though, their leaders were some of the dumbest people to ever live. Colonel Glynn, the commander of the British camp, was so sure that the Zulu army was under threat that he neglected to build any defensive fortifications around their camp. Instead, he spent his time chasing after a small group of Zulu scouts. This proved to be a fatal mistake. While he was gone, The main Zulu force attacked and overwhelmed the undefended camp, killing everyone in sight. This disaster became known as the Rorke's Drift Massacre, and it was one of the most humiliating defeats in British military history. Only a handful of British soldiers survived the attack, and they escaped by hiding in a mission nearby. But let's get back to the story. After the massacre, news of the Zulu Kingdom's strength spread throughout the British Empire. It seemed like a superpower overnight. In reality, it had taken decades for them to become so strong. Still, the British were eager to crush this new threat in South Africa, and they assembled a massive military force to do just that. They had over 4,000 troops ready to march on the Zulu capital and destroy the nation once and for all. But little did they know, the Zulu army was waiting for them. In fact, the Zulu king Cetshwayo had purposely provoked the British into attacking him. See, when the British came to South Africa, they didn't just bring their guns, they also brought diseases like smallpox and cholera that devastated native populations who'd never even seen a European before. Cetshwayo wanted to stop this threat, so he met with British officials and demanded that they leave his territory immediately. The British refused, though, and they told him that he should be grateful to be ruled over by a superior race, and that he had to accept their demands if he did and want to be attacked. Cetshwayo, insulted and angry, simply told them to come and try, and that's exactly what they did. On January 1879, a massive British force set off from their base camp and marched toward the Zulu capital. With them, they carried nothing but guns, bayonets, and swords, but the Zulus were ready for them. As the British approached their position, the Zulus formed a circle around their camp, hiding out of sight until the last possible moment. Then they unleashed a hail of spears and arrows upon the unsuspecting British, completely overwhelming them. Within minutes, the British were running for their lives, and the Zulu army pursued them, slaughtering everyone who couldn't escape. However, although the Zulus were victorious at first, they ultimately lost the war. More British troops arrived to reinforce the camp, and they eventually defeated the Zulus. After that, the British went on to conquer all of South Africa, and the Zulu people were scattered and forced to live in small reserves where they could be more easily controlled. Cetshwayo was killed in a confrontation with British soldiers, and the Zulu Kingdom ceased to exist. But the legacy of their courage and fighting spirit lived on through their art, music, and literature. Today, the Zulu people are still one of the largest ethnic groups in South Africa, and they continue to honor their ancestors and the traditions that were nearly wiped out during the Anglo-Zulu War. Now, if you want to learn more about this amazing kingdom, I highly recommend that you check out the book Zulu by Alan Paton or the movie Zulu, which is based on the Rorke's Drift Massacre. Both are excellent resources that can help you better understand this complex and fascinating civilization. Now, speaking of amazing civilizations, have you ever wondered how the ancient Egyptians managed to build the pyramids without modern technology? Click here to find out. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing journeys through history. Thanks for watching. Bye.